Hello, chums, and welcome back to our Game of Thrones Song of Ice and Fire campaign After the Fire. I've been waiting for a little while to say that. That's awesome. We're back. Season 6, final season. Not Season 8, not the cursed season. Season 6, when it was still okay. I am surrounded by a lovely assemblance of human beings, and I would like to talk to them briefly before we start. First in my little screen here is Don. Hello, my friend. How are you doing this week? Yeah. What? Oh, no. Yeah, 1 second. Now you should be able to be heard.
Hey.
There you are. Sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
take two. Make it sound like more sincere and natural, I guess.
I can't, yeah. I'm not capable of that.
No, me.
I'm really excited to be back. I've been looking forward to this since the last time we played. I am a little nervous, but what I was saying is we've been building to this for many seasons now. I have had characters die, and all in the effort to bring about war in the Reach, and here we are. So I'm excited. My week is what it normally is. I run games and write games, and it's a great life. And it's been busy, but good.
And because you have a game almost as soon as this finishes normally, we just a very, very quick announcement. We are going to be keeping it fairly tight in terms of session times this season. But I'm not going to stick purely to just the strict 10 episode season. It's going to take maybe as long as we take, so 10ish episodes. But we are going to finish maybe just a little bit early when Don's with us, so that Don, you've got a bit of time to unwind and then warm up for your next game. So yeah, all good. So yeah, if you've been watching the Spy Game, I actually really like the kind of quick little kind of 2-hour sessions that we do. It's not going to be quite that short, but like we'll kind of see how it goes, and I will be keeping on the time, an eye on the time as well. Oh, nice one. All right, V, you're back with us. Hello, friend. What's up?
Hi. I'm excited and nervous. After the end of last season, all hell has broken loose, and I managed to achieve something that I've been low-key wanting for a while. All I said last season behind the scenes was, I low-key want Mara to kill a man.
Just want to kill a
So
dude.
here we are. I'm waiting to see if Mara learns what consequences are this season. I'm sure they'll be delivered in the form of Miria. But no, I'm excited, and I can't wait to see what kind of mess Don and I have got ourselves into with this, because that was quite a stunt that we pulled at the end of last season, and I can't possibly see how it could backfire in any way, shape, or form.
I cannot wait to see what you guys do. I am
Chaos.
I am like the fucking Maldeep. I'm seeing endless possibilities from kind of where we all are and like what's going on, and there are going to be some tough fucking choices this season, and it's not even like a kind of A or B video game choice. It's literally just, here are the fucking circumstances, what do you want to do? So I am really, really looking forward to that as well.
Mara's whole thing this season is just don't fucking die.
Just don't die.
So like that's an achievable potential goal, so we'll see.
Yeah, fair. Well, I mean, coming at you, and contrary to that would be Susie and Miria with a pimpin' new shield, by the way.
Look at that thing. Look at it.
It's fucking brilliant. It's better than genuinely better than the other like regular shield.
Yeah. Hence why I named it Ironwood, but better when I sent you the files.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm glad to be home.
You're on the road for ages,
the
right?
car drive from hell yesterday. I was in the car for like 10 hours in traffic on the 401. So any Canadians who know what the 401 is, you know that was not good. But I'm home. I had a lovely Thanksgiving weekend, ate far too much food. And yeah, I'm excited to play this season. I have a sinking feeling I'm not going to make it out alive this season with the choices Miria has made. They're not good choices. They're not choices that tend to extend one's lifespan, but I hope that I can take out a couple motherfuckers before I go down. So that is my goal for this season, is take out a couple motherfuckers before I am taken out. So we'll see how it goes. You know, there's two in particular I have my eyes set on, but we'll have to see if what happens.
Well, you did just get gifted 3 test die from chat.
Chat.
Where are we here? A big thank you to Don Quixote for that one. Yeah, and it's a good chance to mention, like, if you wanna tip us to help us keep the lights on, then you can do. The info is all below, but you can get bonus dice, you can give test dice out to these wonderful folk, you can help them with their rolls, their dice rolls, a bit like giving an advantage or something like that in D&D. So yeah, if you fancy it, no pressure, obviously, and subs as well. Give a bonus dice, so you could choose who you want that to go to as well. So yeah, thanks for those. Bringing some semblance of normality and politics to this campaign. Millie, how are you doing, friend?
I'm all right. I've had a bit of a day, and then my computer decided to bring me right back into the moment by just full on crashing all over the place right before this show.
God.
So it's all splendid. But
You're with us though. It's okay.
Yeah. Phew, tech hates me. It's mutual. Yeah, I'm so desperate to play this season, and I have been for so long, and now it's suddenly here, and I'm like, oh no, that means I've actually got to do the things.
Oh, I've got to make choices.
That's scary
Stuff.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what happens this season. It is such a glorious shit show we've all landed ourselves in, and yeah,
What's
it's going to go
incredible
well, right?
It's been like that since day one. It's
Yeah,
been
but
an
this is
absolute shit
weird.
show since day one.
This has been weird for me, the change from last season to this season, because I was always around Tom
Yep.
last season, every
Yeah.
single episode, and to see the cast list, I'm like, oh, this is real now. We're full on separated now. So Tom, I don't forgive you, and this is your fault.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting season because I talked to these folks about we could do different modes of play that the game actually gives you. Like, if you're all different houses, you can play that version of the RPG if you want to, and kind of work against each other. And I feel that's kind of halfway where we've kind of arrived, where people are not really working together, and they are separated, but they're, maybe they'll come together, or maybe they'll actually work against each other. And so we haven't quite arranged it yet. We haven't quite figured it out, but we want to do some extra faction turn episodes where we'll be doing stuff that's a little bit more procedural and not very role play. And it's very much like, okay, I want to go and send my forces off to there, and I want them to do that, and I want my agents to go off there, and I want them to influence that person, or whatever it is. So we'll figure out a day that works for people, and I want to do it shortly after this one, to be fair, because this episode kind of sets the scene and gives us a bit of drama, reminds us about what's going on as well. Yeah, so I'm really
Drama
excited.
with this group?
No lies, not at all. We're all
No
normal,
shit.
happy, shiny people. All right, well, look, time is against us, so let's get on. We've got music this season because I really love music, role play to music, and I relented, so I'm going to play the suspense playlist, which is the normal playlist. You should be able to hear it in Roll20. You can adjust it with under your settings, your master music level. I'll just adjust mine a little bit there. And so we're going to start with Season 6, Episode 1, which is entitled Dawn. Grub. Curled in the darkness of his cell, half covered in his own filth, mixed in with the straw of his nest, he wept, not for the first time today. With the absolute darkness comes the visions, and the visions cry into his brain as vividly as the sun rises across the narrow sea and bathes the fields of Westeros. A woman, shorter than him at least, covered in vines and leaves, a familiar pattern of a broad leaf inviting him to take her cloak of leaves. But then, the clang of swords rings out, and the little rat can't work out if it's sounds of fighting within the castle keep or the echo of memories like thunder against the clouds. The gods don't dwell on rats like him, scurrying around in the darkness, the damp and the filth. Covered in a mix of his own dirt and the clammy dew of the stone walls, a bright shape begins to pierce its way into his eyes, a beam of light fluttering in the night. 100 knights, all lined up on parade, stomping their feet and banging their swords and their shields, their green shields, marching with the clink of chains to their imprisonment and their doom. They should be black, not green. He should be black, not green. But here he finds himself, a little grubby rat, in the black, but not black. The chains and the feet echo all around him. To try to get them to stop, on every other beat he finds the wall, banging his head, spinning the world with each hit until, syncopated, the little rat can feel a trickle against his little head, his own blood beginning to splat and spittle down the left side of his face. But each hit provides some comfort. Each hit breaks a bit of the noise and brings Grub back to the darkness. Dark and quiet, like Ratty likes it, curled up against the wall, his blood warm on his face. Grub tries to focus on her face, not to manifest and cause him pain again, but in memory, just a normal memory. I am hers and she is mine, he thinks, or says, out into the darkness. I am hers and she is mine. To her little nose, I am her and she is mine. To her deep brown eyes, I am hers and she is mine. To her flowing brown hair. Until she unbolts the door. No, wait, a blinding orange light hurts Ratty's little eyes, and he scurries as far as he can from the blistering orange of the torch before the figures of the giant men above him reveal their features and take shape, looking down at his little ratty face and little ratty features. Grub knows it's time to become a man again. He'll need to squeak. Good morning, sir. Grub blinks the rat away and tries to focus on the face speaking to him. Sharp, elegant features, dark of hair and clean shaven. Grub strained his mind, and then like a sword falling on a man's neck, the realization of who this was comes to him. Sir? Asked Baelor Breakspear, Prince and Hand of the King. Yes, replied Grub, gripping at his grubby, filth-stained, ragged robe. Your presence is requested by His Grace, the King, upstairs. It's true, the crown was not here, in the corridor outside his little den. Dragging one sorry leg after the other, piss falling down one of them, Grub stumbled forward to the disgusted and disdainful faces of his captors. Dragged up several flights of stone steps, the final door to the dungeons would lead up out into the world. And as that door advanced, Grub froze. His little legs locked in fear, and he even squeaked a little out into the cool air of the corridor. But it was only a moment, as the jailers took 2 steps back towards him, grabbing his hands and dragging him forward as he limped. Grub closed his eyes, focused on the fair maid from his mind once more, trying with all his will for the gods to relieve him of this flesh and be with his wife one last time. But the door slammed open, and blinding him with a brightness so harsh his head rolled back and to the side into the jailer's shoulder. He bit down hard and could hear the jailer grimace and grunt in pained annoyance. Thrown to a solid stone floor, it took him several minutes for his eyes to slowly adjust to the cold light of the day, and by the time he could see again, he cursed his weakness as the day was only just beginning, the sun rising up behind the great red brick castle to the east. Your Grace, Baelor bowed to his king, presenting him with his prisoner. Young Sir Alistair, spoke the king. Daeron, second of his name, the Good. They said the good. There was nothing good about the figure stood above him now, round-shouldered, with a slight pot belly, a slightly gaunt profile with eyes clear and bright, full of resolve. Grubb did not reply. Your time with us is over. Your sentence has been served. Allow me to welcome you back to the Seven Kingdoms. 10 years, then, squeaked Grubb. He remembered that, at least. He knew it must be 10 years, then, since he was first condemned to this hole, but the king just sighed. I'm afraid not, Sir Alistair, replied Baelor with a humble compassion. It pains me to tell you, your father died most recently. An illness brought on, some say, by the heartbreak of your sentence. Then, is all he could muster in reply. His knees complained about kneeling on the hard cobbles. That is not all, sir, continued Prince Baelor. A darkness has pervaded the Seven Kingdoms again. A black dragon has landed on its shores once more, and many houses, particularly in the plains and meadows of the Reach, want to defy us again. You will not be one of those houses, will you? The king interjected this time, and Grubb could feel the arrival of the real point he was here. Baelor, you will muster an army and go to the Reach. Call the banners of the Crown Lands and all who will follow you along the Rose Road to arrive at Highgarden and put an end to this rebellion as swiftly as you can. Sir Alistair here will help you. Lend you his forces once you arrive in the Reach. Baelor gave a short bow and returned to Grubb once more. I dealt with you once, Sir Alistair. The gods would have it I need to deal with you a second time. Welcome back to the light, Lord Alistair Oakheart, Lord of Old Oak. Faye. Hornhill is a kind of strange place now of courtly decadence with that edge of confrontation, tension as people walk around not really truly knowing who their allies might be. And yet there is music here, there is ample food, provisions, noble dinners some nights. But if you look carefully enough, you can see that there are two knights watching you at all times. You and your companion, Sir Dennis. Occasionally, their hands find their place to the hilt of their swords, ready to break up any kind of argument. But thankfully, nothing like that has come to fruition yet. You can hear occasionally the ringing of practice swords out in the yard, or perhaps even in the valley below. And there's the creaking of wood of kind of war turtles that are being constructed in order to break down the doors to various holdfasts or fortresses in the coming war, and the firing of scorpion bolts or catapults or any manner of siege equipment that House Tarly has began to construct here. With Sir Dennis at your side, where do we normally find Lady Faye, do you think, of a day?
Lady Faye has, after a couple of days of just not being around at all, she has come out of her rooms, and I think she tends to not hold court, but she has made her chambers and the areas surrounding it very much a social hub for people who want to escape the warlike aspects of what's going on, and there are lots of walks outside for those who are allowed, and essentially trying to break the tension as much as possible. She keeps a couple of singers around her at all times to try and lighten the mood, and she's just really trying to take that weight off people.
So it's a kind of afternoon that you'll find yourself in the courtyards of Horn Hill, and it's a very public gathering this afternoon. There's kind of various cakes and some drinks and teas on offer, and even the Tarleys themselves have gathered outside here today. Is there anything you'd like to do?
Is Lady Casella there?
Yeah.
I think Faye would naturally gravitate towards her, especially. I'm assuming Lord Leo is not present.
Lord Leo is not present. You haven't seen Lord Leo for as long as you've been a captive here as well. He's not afforded the same kind of house arrest that you are, so you can only assume that he is in the dungeons of Horn Hill.
In that case, I think she will have been spending a fair amount of time with Lady Casella, just trying to give her some comfort and that feeling that there is somebody else there who is a woman who understands what this is.
Yeah, I tell you what, because I think that's kind of almost like a move you want to make. Why don't you make me a persuasion test? I'd say it would be charm. Charm would basically mean that for a simple intrigue like this, where it's just a single roll, it would mean that you could improve her disposition towards you. If you wanted another outcome, then we could resolve that instead. That kind of felt like what you were going for.
Yeah, no, that was good. Would that involve? Yeah, that would involve her current disposition, right? So this test, or is it just like a one-off?
It's just a single roll. Yeah, we're not going to use the normal kind of damage rules for the intrigue.
Gotcha. Okay, so I get +2 on this.
Cool. Very nice.
11, so 13.
I did light her up. Let me see. Fantastic. Okay. She warms to you over a number of days. She comes to rely on you. And like you say, your comforting presence around these gardens. She's often with her young son of about 5 years, Lord Peter.
I think I would make a point of taking some of the pressure of that off her as well. And Faye hasn't really spent much time around children, but would certainly make sure that the boy knew that he could be comfortable around her and would bring him little treats and things.
I can imagine even occasionally Sir Dennis kind of helps out a little bit. Even like has the boy kind of squire in some of the more social ways rather than actually, polishing his chain or anything like that. I mean, this is the heir to the reach, so.
Not just that, I think Faye sees it as very much she knows what it is to be a child who's put in situations like this before they're ready, and she wants to take the trauma of that away from him as much as she can.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's this afternoon, I think, that gives you an opportunity for certain ritual that maybe has been playing on your mind to take place. And like you say, there are walks for the nobility and those under house arrest, and even into the valley, just below Horn Hill, some of the rolling hills around it. You would certainly be able to go around there, escorted at least.
I think it would be more, rather than a planned thing. I think this is something that just happens as part of circumstances. One of the singers starts just singing this kind of very slow, almost minor key version of an old song from Golden Grove, and it just puts her in a certain mind. She's been very careful not to let people see how she's feeling and to always appear strong. And I think if people had noticed, or if they were very perceptive, they'd seen that she's lost a fair bit of weight even over just those couple of weeks.
Mm.
And when she joins people for dinner, she doesn't really eat much. She makes a good show of picking at the food, but if everybody's sitting around and just casual, she'll won't have been prepared for thoughts like that. And at the memories of Golden Grove, will just excuse herself very quietly and walk a little way away from the group. And it's almost like she's in a little bit of a trance. She doesn't really know what she's going to do, but it's almost automatic, like it's inbuilt. And she walks a little way up one of the hillocks and goes down on her knees and just starts tearing into the ground with her fingernails. I think she'd be able to see the shadow of Sedanis behind her, and know that he's there, so she doesn't need to worry about that anymore.
Yeah.
So just lets herself go into this moment fully for the first time, I think, since the night of the wedding. And she's just digging into the dirt with her hands, not even really noticing that the ground and the stones is cutting into her. Not really noticing that people are starting to notice.
Having excused yourself from the dining hall, you only just start to notice that people are starting to gather, and the music that you heard is obviously gone. You got that kind of breath of fresh air as you left, and you left the music behind, but now it's kind of floated back as one of the musicians is behind the group now, the small crowd that's starting to gather around you, as by hand you dig into the soil of Hornhill.
And I don't think she'd even be aware that singer was real. She wouldn't know, because she's heard things like that so much since the night of the wedding. It's hard to figure out what is real and what is memory since then, because she's just been existing in the moment. But when she feels like she's dug down enough and she looks down at her hands and they're just dirt and blood caked into her hands, and she reaches into the pocket under her dress and pulls out one of the Golden Grove apples that had come along with the wedding feast.
Just before you do, Sedanis will reach out a hand to your shoulder, saying, "My lady," and tries to kind of just gently pull you back.
I don't think she'd say anything. She'd just reach her hand up as if to go, "No, it's all right. I'm fine." And would just look at this apple in her hand for a second. And then turn, and her eyes are different suddenly. Like fixed, like lady of the house, ready to give a command. So Dennis, your sword.
He unsheaths the sword only a second or two after you say that, with a slight apprehension, and you both hear the slight clink of chainmail or metal fixtures on gloves onto sword hilts as guards have started to arrive, kind of flanking the crowd, two sets either side, with torches. And so the scene now, as kind of dusk is now beginning to dwindle into night, is bathed by this fluttering torchlight, and people are crooning to not crooning, but like they're kind of craning their necks to try and see like what you've been doing, and they can just make out maybe a hole in the ground or the blood on your hands.
I'll lean towards the sword and look up at him, and then look back at it and pull a big clump of my hair from underneath and just run it repeatedly against the sword blade as close to my neck as possible, just hacking at it.
Yeah, it's a little blunt as he's not had the chance to maintain it here. The guests of House Tarly, I would say, probably are still allowed to keep a semblance of arms and armor, but they certainly wouldn't have been given the right provisions to maintain them, just to give House Tarly that edge. But you managed to at least cut some hair.
And she'd pull it away from her head in this clump and suddenly look up for a second and see that other people were looking, and so made that more of a demonstration of what she's done so that nobody thinks that he's trying to hurt her, and gives him a nod to tell him that he can put it away. And then she takes the apple and just winds the hair around it. It's not elegant. It's not a braid of any kind. It's just wrapping this thing up. And you can see that she's shaking now as she goes back into her thoughts about what this means to her. And she places the apple in the ground and starts digging the dirt back over it, packing it down, almost with more force than I think you'd expect her to. Almost like shoving it down is forcing her will to come true.
And Samuel and Mara, the song that you hear is from a slightly older, thespian-looking mama who sings with a lute, and is a song of Rowan Goldtree, who, bereft when her lover left her for a rich rival, she wrapped an apple in her golden hair and planted it upon a hill.
We're witnessing all of this, yes?
Mm-hmm.
So I like to imagine that as night falls, Samwell, who's currently dressed in his armor, and he's spent the past few days being two different people. In some ways, when he's around the court or with the men preparing for war, he's a lot like Faye. He's putting on an optimistic face. He's trying to keep people's moods up. He's trying his best not to create this sense or add to this sense that this is a grim place, even though the beautiful meadows and hills and gardens and the court and the keep, the water fountain of Horn Hill are a little bit darker ever since the wedding. He does his best when he's with other people, but he spends a lot of time, especially in the evening, drinking in his chamber or in his father's chamber, the sword Heartsbane on his lap, brooding, quiet. And right now, as Faye is doing this, going through this ritual, he's in the front line of his men. So as the darkness falls, I think he's just a large silhouette with the reflection of torchlight from his men's torches in his eyes. And she presents the hair and begins to wrap the apple. And when Sir Dennis sheaths his sword, he takes a couple of steps forward and holds out his hands towards the line of knights there and says, "Back to your duties. These are our guests." And slowly makes his way, not up towards Faye's back, but sort of in a circle around, so that when she's starting to bury the dirt he'll actually kneel down on the ground opposite side of the hole from her and just push a little bit of dirt towards her and see how she reacts.
Her eyes would snap up to yours with a fierceness I don't think you would have been expecting. It's almost animalistic, definitely aggressive. With this look of how dare you intrude on this.
He pulls his hands back and he nods. There's empathy in his eyes, or maybe it's pity. It's something in the dark. He nods and he stands and he looks back to his men, takes a breath and walks away, giving one last curious glance down into that hole, to that apple in the dirt, because I don't think he knows what this is. I don't think this is one of the things about Golden Grove he'd remember, right?
I think everybody would know the songs. And Samuel has been at the festivals quite a lot. There was probably quite a lot to do with it.
Probably a familiar song.
But it might, if there's like extra personal significance, he might not know that.
No,
he just knows that this is a custom.
I think to anybody who didn't know Faye's situation, it would be more like she is mourning for something she's lost. She's mourning for her home.
He'll linger for a moment and watch, and then walk past her back towards the court, back towards the night.
I imagine that Mara's watching this from the sidelines too. It's probably with Samuel as he goes up, but she hangs back. She's just watching. And she's in her armor as well. She hasn't really gone back to the court dresses. She's been very absent from a lot of the kind of lavishness and the singers and the nice tea parties, and has spent a lot of time watching knights train and just like wherever there's a lot of noise and a lot of what sounds like calamity going on, that's where she is to just drown out everything else going on in her head, and has probably also spent a lot of time in her and Samuel's chambers, probably the two of them drinking a lot together and not really talking about everything that's going on, and just keeps herself away. She's surrounding herself with knights, and even here, with so many Tarly guards around and knowing that she's safe, she still has her little personal retinue that she's kind of adopted are still there, very like Cersei Lannister in the Red Keep style. And that's how she's seen walking around. And I think she just watches. And I don't think she probably too knows a bit of the history of Golden Grove. You know, probably has heard the stories of the house's founding, because it's one of those wonderful tragic romance things that, you know, young ladies were probably really into hearing when you've got a lot of free time to read. But she doesn't interrupt, and she just watches Samuel as he walks up and can't see Faye's reaction, but can probably guess at what it is when he starts walking back looking a bit defeated. But the whole time is just like blank face, just watching.
I think the other part that you would know is that from that apple, Rowan Goldtree grew an apple tree whose bark, leaves, and fruit were all of yellow gold. And so rings true, at least our semi-canonical house words for House Rowan, our own fortunes made.
I think she just watches until Samuel comes back, and she gives him a look that's just a question of like, not even anything in particular, but just what do we do now? She doesn't want to interrupt Faye. She's already seen Faye broken when she went to get her from the room that she'd locked her in all those nights ago. She doesn't want to go over there and interrupt, but she doesn't know if they're supposed to be standing here watching this. It almost feels wrong to her that this has now become some kind of spectacle, because clearly this is something that Faye is doing for herself. And Mara kind of understands that, of the need to like just be, but doesn't really know what to do.
And Samuel returns.
Oh, sorry, go for it.
I was going to say, when Samuel returns to to Mara, the sort of lightness and empathy in his eyes, and the sort of bright mood and energy that he shows the other men as the knights depart to return back to the keep. When they turn, and for a moment it's just him and Mara, there's a mirror there too between him and Mara, where his face just kind of goes blank. You can see, he's tired, and that Mara would know that he's very worried about his father and very worried about them. He won't say so, but I think it's too obvious for her not to know that that's part of what's wrong with him right now. And he just reach out and offer his hand to you and quietly say, I think we should let Lady Rowan have this time to herself.
He would take his hand and just kind of nod. And doesn't really acknowledge anything that he said past that. But I think as they're walking off, she spots that worried look, and she knows him well enough to know that he's worried about things, and that his silence is just as good as him explaining what it is he's worried about. And says, in a way that's both a statement but kind of a question, and she's not sure which it is, just goes, we did the right thing. And it's really not clear if she's trying to reassure him or ask him if they did the right thing, or if she's trying to tell that to herself. But it's like the only way that she can kind of convey that she gets exactly what he's feeling in that moment.
He answers, or maybe it's a question, as you kind of start walking back towards the keep with him, and says, we did the only thing we could.
I really hope that's true. And she just dead on looks at him, and then just kind of takes his arm a little tighter as they walk back to the keep. And all she can think about while she's wearing that armor is what happened on the battlements. It's been replaying in her mind over and over again.
I think sensing, oh, nice. Sensing Samuel moving away, she goes back to pushing this dirt into the ground, and the blows on it get harder, in frustration that he'd broken that moment, that he'd made this happen, that he'd intruded, that every time she tries to do something, he's there. And the harder she hits the ground, the more these silent tears start falling down her face and onto the ground. And eventually she just hunches over it for a second and lets herself stop and just takes a big, deep breath and stands up and kind of wipes the tears from her face. And she turns around to go back into the castle, and her posture is different. It's like a farmer going, right, okay, back we go.
And by the time
blood and mud all over her face now.
And by the time that you get up, the crowd's disappeared. And it's just you and Sir Dennis in that little garden.
I like to think that as Mara and Sam will walk away, and Faye gets more aggressive with trying to bury this apple, that somewhere kind of once they've crossed half the distance back towards kind of the halls, Mara just looks over her shoulder, and all she can see of Faye now is just this silhouette that's aggressively pushing it into the dirt. And I don't think she can stop herself from voicing the thought that is going through her head watching this go on, knowing the history of Golden Grove, and turns back to Samuel and just looks at him and says, she could be here like this right now. This should have been her. And she's talking about herself and where she physically is right now, holding on to Samuel's arm as they kind of enter back into kind of Hornhill proper, and just looks at him and goes, this should have been her.
he doesn't answer right away. And kind of a prolonged silence, continuing slow, steady steps into the keep. But when he does finally answer, stopping, the glow of the inner keep light catching his face, he kind of turns towards you and he manages a very thin smile, thin in his eyes, thin on his face. He says, Lady Rowan and I were an arranged marriage, or we were to be. We were friends, but where we are now is something I chose. I chose you, Mara. And the kingdom needs both of you. But I need you here with me.
I'm not going anywhere, but no matter what I do, Sam, she is never going to forgive me. She might forgive you for this.
Oh, I doubt that.
Miria. As we jump cut to Ironwood. And a bright day in Ironwood Bay. Ironwood itself is rebuilding. Slowly, but it is. And even though the sandworms are no longer a force here at House Ironwood, some of them have been taken into the Brotherhood of the Blood Royal. And so you have retained the abilities, you've retained the veterancy of that kind of specialist fighting force. All that's left apart from that, though, is the garrison here for the keep, and obviously the kind of watchers of the Stoneway that take up guard posts along towers along its southern border. Aurora and the fleet have departed for the Eastern Dawn, as have the Tyroshi mercenaries and Jourdain's forces. And so you are essentially alone here, but with Harris, as he is still interested in heading to the Reach. It's still his main objective. What's your plans? What are you doing here in Ironwood?
So I think day to day, Miria is cashing in on her promise to be a force for the people. So she's, while they are rebuilding in Ironwood and reconstructing, she's down there on the ground helping people. You know, she's not necessarily hucking bits of stone around, but she's doing what she can to like be physically down there and helping as much as possible. And then at night, I think she's like poring over the documents in the solar so she can be up to date with what's going on, like economically with Ironwood. So she's like knackered, but she's really like throwing herself in there. Her plan with regards to the war, that is surely on its doorstep. She is, for the time being, until she receives further orders, she's holding the fort here because the Boneway is, you know, a passage straight up to the Stormlands through Will.
Mm-hmm.
And if the Boneway goes, then that's a fucking funnel straight down the coast of Dawn, which is a bad time for us in the Blackfyre camp. So she is basically holding the fort, as it were, waiting for further orders, helping Harris wherever she can, but she doesn't even know what his plans are yet, really, beyond I want to go to the Reach, which is not necessarily a good plan, Harris.
Certainly I think a lot of the decadence that was here, thanks to Horatio, is gone. It's a much more kind of humbling place, and so food is a little scarcer. It is a little bit more humble in terms of Dornish cuisine. Certainly not in what he used to attempt, at least, the feasts and the drinking that used to happen, and the hedonistic lifestyle that was led here at the court. And so you've got like that main tower that is kind of a key part of Ironwood Keep's structure, as everything else is on that kind of lower level. Now we've got our visual inspiration for the keep. Towards the top of that is basically where the courtroom is, and then just off to the side of that is this long solar. And so you can look out the balcony into the yard and also kind of down the valley a little bit, around the other side, kind of I reckon like two sides actually. You know, you look out that way to the valley a little, to the valley, but to the fields a little bit, and then the other direction you can look out towards the port town and the Sea of Dawn. This is where I am actually going to get you to roll because I forgot, House Fortune roll. Yeah, we're going to see how well you have actually stewarded this house. So let me get my PDF
There is a status
out. It's a status stewardship test. Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Well, I've got three Ds. Let's add a D.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Cheating.
It's not cheating.
Just being a person of the people.
I'm using my experience here to try and lead a house when I have no experience in well, I have actually, but it didn't go well. Let's see.
Okay.
14. I don't know if that's good or bad because the table's all over the place.
It's not great.
Good.
A 14
Yep.
gives you a blessing.
Hey. That's
What
better than a catastrophe or whatever the fuck.
What resource, defense, law, people, land, influence, wealth would you be trying to improve?
Okay, let me very quickly look at what I'm working with good old House Ironwood. We've got a sheet for that, right?
Yes, and you should be invited to the sheet.
Ooh. Where'd you put it? House Ironwood, right there. All right, let's see what we've got. A defense is 34, which is pretty decent.
We have just come out of a disaster, as it was as you technically were a disaster for this house. At least that's how I thought about it. And the action was wage war. So, and they lost some. Your population is currently at 10. That is giving you a -5 House Fortune roll modifier. In fact, told your bloody horses, madam, you need to reduce your result by 2.
2? Okay, it's 13.
13 gives you a...
No, wait, hang on. That's not 13.
No, 14, 13, 12.
12.
Okay, you don't get a blessing, you get a boon.
Okay.
And a boon is obviously not quite as good.
Not quite, but not terrible.
No, it's even fucking better. What the fuck? So you're turning it around, apparently. You're turning it around. Okay.
It's like I was born to do it.
Yeah. What two resources would you be looking to improve? Or would you be looking to focus on one particular resource?
I think at this moment in time, we should get the population up.
Mm-hmm. For those at home, as you don't see the little spreadsheets and taxes is the little sub game we play. Defense is 34 at the moment, which gives you a full keep, so you're good there. 30 is the threshold for having a keep and keeping it well maintained. Influence is only 19. A good anything is between 20 and 40. Mm-hmm. 40 being pretty fucking good. 70 basically being you rule everything. You rule the whole fucking 7 kingdoms in terms of the scale of it. So 19's not great, but it's not bad. 27 lands is fine. 15 law is pretty poor. That is also giving you a -5 to your House Fortune modifiers, which means that you are in the negative at the moment because the stuff that you have, the Maester, the port, some of that stuff, it gives you a boost to your house fortune rolls. But because of these poor resources, they're putting you into the negative because they're throwing you out such a negative modifier that you're at -2 overall at the moment. So
I have
pretty bad.
an idea how we can make this work narratively rather than just his number go burr.
I'm all ears. I love it. Yeah.
With Myria bringing the Order of the Blood Royal back, they were acting as bandit forces, right, around
Yes.
Ironwood. So she's stopped them being bandits and given them a position now at Ironwood, which means the law will go up, which means people are more likely to stay in the area because they're not going to be attacked by bandits. So law and population go up because bandits stop. And she's probably cracking down on, dickheads that are like Horatio loyalists that are causing trouble and, stuff like that.
Love it. That's super cool. All right, I've written that basically in the notes below the thing. So we've got that recorded. It is, by the way, fam, a leap year in Westeros, I decided.
Oh!
This month is the Strangers Month.
God.
And the Strangers Month is added every 5 years or so as an extra month in the calendar in order to align the moons.
See?
It's fine.
Stranger Month.
Everything's going to be fine. Strangers Month. It'll be fine. It'll be great.
Famously in Game of Thrones, I've never had a problem with the stranger. It's been fine.
Loved by everybody universally. Okay. All right. So a little bit of rules here. Let me just check in terms of the modifiers now. So now that your population is up at a 15, 18, even better. Population of law. Of 18 is still going to be a -5 modifier, but you're working towards it. You're getting there. You need it to be a 21 to just have a -2 to that resource.
Jesus.
Yeah. Like I say, 21 is that threshold where stuff starts becoming okay. With your population of only 13, you are at now a 0 modifier from population. So 10 was literally the threshold where it started becoming a -5 modifier. So you have improved that, thankfully. So going from -5 to 0 on that modifier actually means now that overall you will have a +2 to your house fortune rolls, because Don is a rampant power gamer and gave House Ironwood all this awesome stuff that gave it loads of modifiers, including wealth. Fun fact, Susie, let's just go over some of these holdings now briefly. So we've got the two, so the power that you, this is another thing actually I wanted to get your opinion on, but we don't necessarily narratively, you can't do this overnight. This is something that you've got to work on. You only have 2 forces currently with House Ironwood. You have the Brotherhood of the Blood Royal, obviously, and you've invested 14 power in your elite cavalry crusaders, or Don did for you at least when he rolled up the house. You also have the Guardians of the Stoneway, so they are a garrison, so they only act well when they're at home. You can take them out with you if you want. They are not great. Their discipline isn't great when they're not manning their own walls. So the discipline goes from a 3 to a 9 as the difficulty for you to help them out when they rout and stuff. But that means you've only invested 19 of your 33 power, which means you have the possibility of creating a new troop unit thing.
Okay.
That Scorpion ship did hang around. We can make it hang around if you wanted to spend the points on some little warships. Not sure how warships are going to help you in the Reach though.
Yeah, that's the issue.
There'll be a lot of sailing around Dawn to get to the kind of west coast of the Reach.
Be like in Crusader Kings where you just constantly
you have to just go around fucking Spain to get to go and raid Europe. So have a think about what you might want to add.
Yeah.
Because you have the opportunity now, before you start marching north or marching wherever you want to actually march. In terms of your other, like the stuff you've invested your wealth into, you've got the Boneway Bazaar, which is a marketplace, and that essentially, it doesn't help your house fortune rolls, but it does help you add wealth when that comes up. So if you want to improve wealth, that gives it a bonus. Port Red Rock gives you a +5 to your house fortune rolls. And if you here, this is where Don was doing the synergies, right? If you also have a marketplace, whenever you roll a house fortune and it says you should increase your wealth, you add 1d6 instead of just +1.
Ooh.
You have a small town, which is part of the population and the land thing. But you also have Maester Dorian. You all remember Maester Dorian? He's now fucking ancient.
Good.
Because you knew him when you were a kid.
Yeah, and he was fucking old then.
He was fucking old then, yeah. But Maesters give you a +3 to your house fortune rolls as well.
Sweet.
So it's overall a +8 from that, minus the 5, gives us the +3.
3.
So it's not a +2, it's a +3. There we go. Okay,
Fabulous.
that's the maths.
Yes.
And we've increased law and population. But it's on this warm day that Harris returns from the market. And just because I'm a dramatic bitch, he's got an apple in his hand and he's biting down on it. I like my symbolism. Shut. And he's biting down on this apple as he enters the courtroom at the top of the tower. How does he find you? I guess poring over papers and stuff.
Yeah, I think she's in turbo nerd mode. If it's like a hot day as well, she's not in the. I think when she's out and about and she's like scrubbing in with the lads, she's in like a shirt and pants. But I think because it's quite a hot day, she's in like a quite loose dress. Her hair's all like pinned up and off her neck. And she's just like going through papers and papers. She's got like tomes in front of her. Like it's just a mess on her desk. Because she's just like, fucking Christ.
Okay, I'll tell you what.
Paperwork, Horatio.
Roll me. And it's all badly kept. Up to a point.
Oh, yeah.
Mum did a really good job. Horatio, fucking loose leaf.
Oh, she dead, by the way? Because we never established if Mama Ironwood was also dead.
Yes, unfortunately, by this point, she is deceased.
Fallen out.
Born out for her. F's in chat for Mama Ironwood.
Yeah.
Roll me a knowledge research check, please.
Knowledge research.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
13, let's go.
13's all right.
Still a smart little cookie.
You can ask me one question where the information would be scarce to find. I'd say it's got to be about House Ironwood or the surrounding features or the Dawn political situation.
Okay, so when Mary was here the first time, she found all that info about Marin basically bribing Horatio and giving him money, and Horatio was putting it in his own pocket. Mary's going to say if that shit was still going on at this point, if Horatio still had a huge little personal coffer, or whether or not, like, where the money is in Ironwood.
It is, he was receiving his tithes to Sunspear were reduced. He was not receiving money at the time from House Martell. However, slips of documents going back years, you find a correspondence to the year 199 in which you find Marin Martell send a letter to Horatio to tell him that Sir Oliver is going to ride in a tournament, a wedding tournament in the Reach, and that he should kill him.
Cool.
And he was paid for that.
Excellent. Miria is going to take that letter and she's going to put it aside. That is a very nice letter for her to have. That's a nice little smoking gun right there. Season 1 feels, you're right, V. I think she's looking at this letter as Harris comes in, and there's like a little twinge of something in Maria's face as she's reading it. She's not outwardly furious and shaking as she's reading it, but there's like a look of disgust across her face.
Is something wrong, my lady?
Not now. Just confirm some suspicions I had.
I think I have some good news.
You do?
I have heard that a certain situation has happened at Hornhill.
Situation?
Word is that Sir Samwell is rallying forces in declaration to House Blackfyre.
See?
If that's true, if that's the epicenter of it, we need to make our way there.
To Hornhill.
To Hornhill.
See. I'm not surprised. I'd spoken with Sir Samwell at the tournament at Fox Hollow, and he gestured as much that he would be sympathetic to our cause. Interesting that he would make such a move. How do you know this?
Word travels faster than the wind in Westeros. Faster than the ravens. And he's kind of...
Is it just...
He's got a little bit of stroll on him now. Like he's kind of like he's ambly kind of walking around a little bit. You know how you idly do, kind of like almost kind of marching kind of one foot in front of the other, but in like a little circle around the balcony as the wind, and the wind catchers kind of, grab it and kind of try and cool the place down a little bit. So his, hair flutters a little bit in the wind. But he looks out towards the bay, and then he says, Maester, can you get us some maps for the Red Mountains? And Maester Dorian bows and he kind of goes away. And he takes another crunch of his apple and chews it mouth open. Kind of looking longingly out over the sea.
Leans on her table and looks at him like, she's got that little Kokoro going doki doki a little bit. He's a dreamy little image right there. Before she comes up to him, she says, "Did you bring one of those for me?"
It's that moment that his face kind of drops, and he's like, "Oh, sorry."
It's all right. So, Hornhill.
If that's where our forces are, that's where we should muster them.
Is there any word of who has joined them, or is it just the Tarleys?
There was word that, and stories differ, that there were people there who were captured and who declared for House Blackfyre. Some speak of Lord Costain, I think I remember. Some speak of even Hightower declaring or having to declare. Maybe there are prisoners. It was a Reacher wedding, and so the guest list must have been fairly large.
Miria sort of leans forward on the rails. So you're telling me at a wedding they took prisoners?
Yes. So goes the rumor. But
so goes the rumor. Look, Harris, whatever my personal feelings may be about Samwell Tarley, I do have to counsel you to be cautious. He can't be trusted.
That is true. And as Maester Dorian unfurls this map on a table in front of the both of you. He points to the Boneway and to the small sigil of the keep at the top of it, or just, a good few leagues north of it. Follows his finger down the Boneway, down towards Castle Ironwood, and he says, not only do we need to be cautious in the Reach, but we need to be cautious here too.
Mm-hmm.
Ironwood is of great importance to the Dornish forces to our east, and so we can't let it fall into Targaryen hands either. If the Targaryens are mustering forces from Summerhall, then they will invariably take the Boneway.
Has House Will declared?
I haven't heard. Do you know House Will?
Not personally.
Last I remember of them, they were torturing people. Back at Summerhall.
Well, yes. Can't remember. I was there.
And
So that
you see
if-
just a flash of his eyes as he's like, oh shit, yeah, oh fuck, oh, I'll just kind of nod this out, yeah, no, yeah, oh shit, fucking hell. Put his foot in it.
If House Will are loyal to the Targaryens, then that means that we don't have a buffer on the Boneway. Which means that if Prince Maekar musters at Summerhall and heads south, he will come straight down the Boneway. And it will be Ironwood that faces the brunt of the attack. It also means if we want to go north, we cannot use the Boneway.
I wouldn't even suggest that we use the Prince's Pass either. And he points to the deep valley that's in the centre of the east-west kind of, is it longitude? Latitude? Flatitude? Latitude? I can't remember. Someone knows. No? Okay. Cool.
The bit. The horizontal bit.
The horizontal bit. It's in the middle of the horizontally of the Red Mountains, and there is that natural causeway where what's it called? Skyreach, House Fowler, and Kingsgrave, which is I think the Manwoodies.
Mm-hmm.
They basically have keeps along that Prince's Pass. That's going to be the obvious way to head north, and that's where our enemies will be looking. And he pauses for a moment, and he looks a little bit further west, and then he points dead on Fox Hollow, and he says, looking you in the eye, that's where House Greenmont is, isn't it?
It is, yes.
And there is a way through Fox Hollow north to Horn Hill.
There is, yes. We would have to move through Blackmont to get to Fox Hollow.
You know something of the Red Mountains, don't you?
I lived there my whole life. I'd hope so.
Would you take me through there? He starts to stand up straighter, trying to take on that kind of mantle of like, listen, not he's asking, but he's kind of also saying, as Lord Paramount of the Reach to be, he's like, will you take me through there?
I would. I'm concerned, as we said about the Boneway. If they start marching south while we head north, then what will we do? Ironwood would fall. East coast of Dawn would be wide open. We'd lose the north of Dawn, and
we need more men.
Would be pincered.
But he's kind of getting frustrated,
Yes.
starts to turn, and he kind of looking out again towards this time, the other balcony, out towards the fields and some of the arable land south of Ironwood. We just need more men. As much as it frustrates me to say, we were not as prepared for the Reach as we were for Dawn. We didn't have a house. I was the house in Tyrosh that would enable us to start this insurrection, and I can't. I can't look a fool in front of Bittersteel.
No, and I wouldn't want you to either. Look, if we can get a message to the Tarleys, maybe we can arrange a meeting midway or something, where we're not too far from here, where if an attack does happen, then we're not going to be caught unawares. If we could get them to send someone to us. I'm just concerned about leaving this house unoccupied, especially so soon after I took it. It's ripe for an attack.
And he nods in like slight kind of defeat.
But ultimately, you are the general here. You are in command, so I will do as you command. I can only counsel you my concerns.
He says with a kind of faux maturity, let me think on it. And he takes this time a smaller bite of his apple. Before, only 3 bites in, he kind of tosses it aside for a servant to pick up later and clean up. It's kind of wasteful.
My house, man. Throwing your rubbish around my house.
A guest and everything. Samuel. And so, with your actions at Horn Hill, your prisoners, the question remains who declares, right? And so, guests of your house are Sir Aubrey Ambrose. His orange and white heraldry is seen quite often in the courtyards of Horn Hill, and has also counselled you a little bit too. He, rather noticeably, I think probably for Mara as well as yourself, he is actually fairly above board and quite reluctant to kind of get involved with some of the jibes and the gossiping that's going around at the moment. Like I say, there is that tension in the air of people at least backstabbing each other with their words and kind of playing each other off against one another. But he very much is kind of a bit more stoic, and he doesn't take part in that kind of gameplay. Lord Caswell is here as well and has declared for Blackfyre. He's with you here, and the centaur, golden centaur on the white field, is another symbol that is seen quite predominantly both in your war councils and around court. He informs you he is mustering an army to Horn Hill, but first he needs them to travel through past Highgarden. So, because he is on the river, he is along. So he doesn't use the Rose Road necessarily, but they do march through Highgarden. If my forces were to get caught up with any loyalist forces, then surely they would rout or be broken, or perhaps we could not use them. And yet, he is emboldened, and so he is urging them to march here at the moment. So they are mustering here, so they are on the way.
These are sort of like the 2 most prominent generals that are taking court with me at Horn Hill.
I believe they were both present. Yeah.
And both of their houses in the previous Blackfyre War were loyal to the Targaryens. So they've turned.
Interestingly,
right?
House Caswell was a Targaryen supporter in the last Blackfyre Rebellion. You have turned him in this one. If you wanted to find out a bit more, then you could always talk to him, engage with him, figure out what's going on there.
Yeah,
but he has turned.
So there's some big decisions that Samuel has to make, and so over the course of the days, or has it been weeks? How long has it been?
A couple of weeks, probably.
A couple of weeks.
Timey-wimey.
The first thing that Samuel did was to draft and work with the generals, with his father, and with Lady Faye and Lady Mara as well, a letter that would be copied again and again and again. It would be signed and sealed by all of the lords that were captured and the lords who were present but not captured. That they're just loyal to Blackfyre.
Yeah.
And he would have sent that letter out, ravens to, every house in the Reach, every single house in the Reach. He would have sent it to all of the previously Blackfyre loyal houses in the Stormlands, because he knows that the biggest threat is time. They need more time to rally their forces, and the Stormlands can provide a buffer between the Crown lands and the Reach.
What's interesting about the Stormlands too is that you effectively have a neighbor, a local neighbor, that is a Stormlander house, and that is House Karen. That is just above the Prince's Pass. If you see on the map, there is that a yellow field with black, I believe it's crows or birds of some description, that are patterned there. So that is effectively you and House Greenmont's like neighbor, but they're a Stormlander house.
Oh, cool.
And interestingly that you mention them, because Sir Piers Carron, who is a well-known and respected Tawny Knight, as well as a harper and a singer, a very cultured man, has sent you a letter in beautiful penmanship, pledging his support to House Blackfyre once again.
Awesome. Okay. And he would have also sent this letter, the copies of this letter, to villages, cities, Old Town. It would have been posted in taverns, public meeting places, because his letter in part speaks to the great houses of the Reach and of the Stormlands. It also speaks to the common folk of the kingdoms as well. And it's important to him that he connects to them. So that's the first thing he does is he drafts that letter, he works with it, on it with other people, finalizes it, gets all of it signed, makes the copies, and then sends out a ton of them everywhere. He also sends a copy to House Ironwood, not knowing who controls it, but knowing that House Ironwood controls the Boneway, and in the previous war was a Blackfyre supporter.
It was, yeah, very fervent Blackfyre supporter.
And then his main thing is to learn from the generals. He does a lot of listening. He does a lot of question asking, and we could definitely play something out because I have questions about what to do next.
Yeah, absolutely.
And waits for, I think he puts Costain in charge of gathering all the news about who's supporting who.
Costain has headed to Old Town, right?
Oh, that's right. Let's put Sir Ambrose in charge of that then.
Okay, I'll write that down. You also receive a letter from House Mullendor, which is which is near Old Town, very close to Old Town. It's the butterfly house. It's the white field with all the butterflies next to Old Town. And so they're a neighbour of House Costain. They, I believe, swear fealty to Highgarden, not necessarily to... to Highgarden, not necessarily to Old Town and to Lord Hightower, even though Costain, interestingly enough, his liege lord is Hightower, not directly House Tyrell. So minor house, really. But House Mullendor is on the way, and they have let you know that. So they're saying that they'll march to Hornhill from the uplands after hearing from Costain on the matter.
Okay.
In these war councils, then, I presume, because of the position that you have found yourself in, Mara, that you are present with these councils too.
Yes. Mara would not miss these. She wants to be in the room when these are going on.
Yeah. And Samuel did you want to invite Faye to them as well?
I guess that depends on over the course of a couple of weeks. I know that Faye and Samuel had to work together at least a little bit on the letter that was sent out. But does Faye, if Samuel tries to engage her in conversation or try to get a sense for her vibe, is she always pushing him away, or is she sometimes open?
Right. I want you to roll for me, please. Awareness, empathy. Millie, I want you to check what your passive deception is. So that would be the smaller number, or it would be your rank multiplied by 4.
Okay.
And then just say if Don's result equals it or beats it, or if it fails.
Okay.
So equal or beat is a success.
12.
12.
That beats it.
Cool. Okay. So kind of like a bit of a read target in a way. You get to kind of understand her disposition towards you, and also maybe get a kind of vibe check off her. So Millie, what is Faye's current disposition towards Samwell?
I haven't got them up. What's one down from affectionate?
It's likable or friendly. Yeah.
That's a tough call.
It's like a scale of 1 to 5, and 3 is like dead in the middle. It's like indifferent.
Yeah, she's as close to affectionate as you can be while being absolutely fucking furious.
Disposition
I think
doesn't
I'd
have to
say
necessarily be about emotion, but it is the attachment to people. You can
Then it's
be in love
affectionate.
with someone, but just be really fucking angry at them for this in this
then.
moment. All right, she is affectionate towards you.
Okay. In that case, I think Samwell probably like gives her some space, some time at first for the war councils, but he does feel like the best way to repair this relationship is to get her involved. And just like he believes that he needs Mara's counsel, he believes he needs Faye's counsel as well. And Sir Ambrosia and Lord Caswell are very important to him as well. So I think it's the 5 of them with the war council, his father not being well enough currently. I'm guessing he hasn't recovered.
I'm in such a weird place with this because it was a beautiful kind of burn of a destiny point, this whole circumstance. I want to get an idea off of you, maybe even offline, of like how we reintroduce him. I still haven't quite wrapped my head around what he thinks about things. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, and I'm very curious to find out.
But that's an interesting
Yeah.
space to play too,
Mhm.
because like maybe he doesn't really know what he thinks about this. You've taken over, but probably done what he probably would have. At least he's backing the right side.
Okay.
So yeah.
So I think the five of them, at least for this particular war council, with all the news that some of the armies are moving, Lord Caswell's army is on the march, Mollendor is coming to rally, and he's hoping soon he'll get more letters and hear more news from other houses in the Reach as well. He would invite Faye and of course Mara, along with the 2 generals.
I would love actually that Daddy Tarly to be like in the corner, sat under a blanket or something, just listening.
Like very sick and watching. I love
just
that.
listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the
Just a
first
little
time
hottie.
that he's been well enough for Samwell to like carry him out of the room and like bring him there so that he can sit in and join.
Yeah, they could wheel him here, and you could have a little basket chair and stuff. And yeah, totally.
Cool. So when they gather, the hearth blazing and the room almost hellishly hot with how strong the fire is around the table. There's food presented, I would imagine. They're eating well because they're trying to keep up the spirits, especially the key players' spirits. And Samwell would sit at the head of the table and wait for everyone else to join before he spoke. Probably not wearing his armor currently. Probably just wearing his fine robes.
So Aubrey and Lord Caswell enter together. You overhear a little bit of a snippet of a conversation where Lord Caswell is a bit miffed he can't be going to Old Town. At least that's what you think you hear. But then he's kind of keeping it quiet, and he... So Aubrey is doing a very good job of just kind of listening, kind of passively. And so they bring some papers with them. So Aubrey has another letter, or at least another document that you might not have seen before. And they gather. Millie, how do we find Lady Faye in the scene?
So this is shortly after the last scene, right?
Day or two after, timey-wimey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She is very well put together. She's making an effort to put that all behind her now and just head down. This is business Faye. I don't think she's making an effort to disguise any scratches or damage to her hands, but she's calm, the same as you would have seen her in Lord Leo's court, but just the joy's gone out of her eyes for a bit, and she's taking a slight sit back and is just watching to see how this goes down, because they still haven't had a very important conversation, and she's not going to help until she's got an agreement on what she wants.
Yeah, and people's eyes take everyone else in, and there's that uncomfortable air in the room as well. Like you said, it's stuffy and hot. People start to unbutton surcoats. A bit of fanning, yeah. V, how do we find Mara in the scene?
I mean, imagine Mara's already in the room with Samuel as people are entering. And she's probably not in her armor if Samuel isn't, because she's now inside and this is a meeting. She's probably got on a dress that's in the house Tarly colours that's, befitting her being the lady of a house. But I like to think that it's still got some of those elements she started wearing at the tourney. There is some leather in the bodice. It looks like a very lady of the house at war kind of feel, because she doesn't feel safe. And she still has Samuel's rapier on a sword belt that she wears. She's always seen with it, carrying this sword.
Yeah.
And I imagine she's sat kind of at the table beside him, kind of playing with this goblet of wine that she's not really drinking. As she's looking out at, I imagine there's a huge map that's been, sprawled across the table in preparation for this meeting. As she's looking over it and mentally checking off in her head which houses she knows that letters have come from and which ones are waiting to declare. And because she remembers the first Blackfyre rebellion, so she would have grown up knowing who sided for who and who had armies and who didn't, and is kind of mentally going over what she knows in her head about this, and kind of, I guess, a bit of her's preparing herself as somebody to ask why she's here.
I think that would be quite an interesting. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone would question why Faye was here, but she remembers being in the war tent with Alistair way back when, and it was Gorman Peak who asked why Alistair had brought his wife to a war tent, and so there's a bit of her that's like sitting there mentally preparing herself for that comment, and just like of being questioned about what she's doing here. But maybe she won't be. She doesn't really know.
I don't think that comment comes. I think it's a tight enough group now that there is a little bit of an unspoken understanding with House Tarly, and particularly your part to play in what transpires during your wedding.
I think that'd be quite an interesting contrast between the two of them, though, even just visually and mood-wise. There's that dark hair versus light hair. Her outfit is very warlike and very harsh, and
almost masculine
in
some ways for Mara, because she takes on wearing a lot of the kind of masculine half cloaks and having this sword on her all of the time. And Mara is dressed for war, whereas Faye is dressed for court. Like, I like that contrast.
It's Sir Aubrey who breaks the uncomfortable silence at the beginning of the meeting, throwing down a couple of missives that have been written for him or sent to the house and passed on to him by its maester. Long Table has declared for House Blackfyre once more. Seems Lord Merryweather is just as willful as he was during the first rebellion. There's that bite of willfulness of his comment that alludes back to we used to call him Sad Santa, is a kind of he's a larger lord that enjoys life, has a very young son, but is a single father effectively to that heir apparent, and he effectively decided to join the Blackfyre rebellion because they caroused him into it. It was basically a bit like a kind of what did we think of it at the time? It was a bit like a stag do kind of bet, like a bachelor's party kind of gone wrong, where he was, you know, caroused into joining this side and came to regret it as Lord Tyrell and Desmera Redwine kind of tormented him a little bit politically and trying to mess around with him a bit. But he seems to have declared as well. But Sir Aubrey goes on to say, I'm afraid the only other news I have, although it is good, is I have heard from Starpike that deserting forces intend to join us here at Hornhill. With no lord and no heir apparent, the house is in complete disarray. Split between Blackmont and Starpike, their forces want to gather at the strongest point, and that, my lord, is here.
So Samuel's face is kind of distant, that kind of dour, broody face until the news starts coming in. And with each one, his eyes light up a little bit more. And when he hears the news about Starpike, he actually smiles and he stands up and presses his hands down onto the table and looks at 4 other people gathered here. And he says, that is very good news. Thank you all for being here today. I'm afraid I have been thinking about this now for weeks, and while we do receive more news day by day, this is a war of time. I will be upfront with everything I have done to prepare for it. I have hired pirates to sail north up the coast to harry the Crown lands, particularly House Lannister's villages, to slow them down. I have reached out to the Stormlands in hopes that our allies there will harry any forces coming down from the Crown lands or through the Dornish marches. I have reached out all across the Reach and to House Ironwood too. Unfortunately, despite the fact that we have their liege lord, despite the fact that we have most of their family, well, there has been no confirmation on Highgarden and its forces.
I would not expect it, my lord. And Lord Caswell begins to try and take the floor a little bit. But we have paralyzed their apparatus. With Hightower, with Lord Tyrell here, we have paralyzed them. And while some houses may not be declaring just yet, as soon as they do, we will be the dominant force in the Reach. I believe if we were to act now, as you say, we would not be met with much strong resistance. Now, of course, I have to turn my matter, the attention to you, my lady, as he looks over to Lady Rowan. You are Marshal.
Almost everything he's just said, she's just kind of gone, like just a ridiculous snort.
Yeah, and so he sneers at you as he says, you are Marshal of the North Marches. Declare you and your bannermen for House Blackfyre, and we will be the dominant force in the Reach.
That was never part of this agreement, and you have no right to inquire about it. As for Highgarden being paralyzed, I think you have forgotten how matters at court transpire. They are not paralyzed. They are amassing their forces. You have taken their leader. They are finding a new one. Samuel, you are squandering your bargaining chips. And much as it pains me to work against my former, I cannot see you walk willingly into a situation that could get people killed. Currently, you have no influence over Highgarden. All your influence is here, and nobody there, bar the Tyrells, gives a damn that you've got his son. They'll just find a new one. You have no control over matters there, and even if they did declare for you, Highgarden rarely says what it's actually thinking. So if you have given up control, take it back. Put somebody there that you can control. You have her.
I agree. I agree entirely with Lady Faye. I think it is important, both due to my promise and our honor, that Lady Faye's house and armies are not brought into this war. And if you change your mind at a later time, Lady Faye, that will be your choice. At least for now, we know they are away from the combat. But we have two opposing forces, two immediate threats that must be dealt with. It is not just Highgarden that we cannot allow to rally. We cannot allow Maekar to rally Summerhall. And of the two threats, the Tyrells have always needed House Tarly to stand. Their host, without us and without all of you, your houses, our allies, will be small. It can be conquered. But the Targaryens under Maekar are a much larger threat. And if we can smash Summerhall, if we can end that threat before it grows, then when Blackfyre comes up from the south and leaves Dorne, we will rally an even greater force. We have to do two things at once. We have to take control of Highgarden, and we have to destroy Summerhall. Leave it in ash. So, to wiser minds than mine, how do we accomplish that?
Ransom the Lady Cassella back to Highgarden to rule in Lord Leo's stead.
That would surely muster them more, no?
No, because you have her husband and her son.
You think she would
And-
put her son's life in danger?
You saw. Everybody has heard that her word is what saved his life. She cared, so use your bargaining chip.
And Lady Faye, inform me about some of the more nuances of the Highgarden Court. If she is currently with us, who would even be running Highgarden right now? Who would be making those decisions?
That is a question I cannot answer. Highgarden changes from minute to minute, and what you have taken as paralysis is in fact a wasp's nest trying to find a new queen. But do not mistake that for disorganization. There are many stings within that nest.
Mara, what do you think? Is this wise, sending her home? Do we stand to lose anything?
Send the Lady Castella back. We have her husband, we have her son, and if it was enough for her to want to save her husband's life, then perhaps she will continue to be a pawn in whatever we need. There is always the chance that sending anyone back, they turn on us. But right now, Highgarden, like Lady Faye says, is a wasp's nest fighting. They're going to be vying for power. everybody involved in the court there is going to want to be the person in charge for the power, for what comes afterwards. We have to put someone in there. What happens after they're there, that's a whole different problem we have to deal with, and we'll have to deal with either way. But right now, we have to have somebody there. I don't know who would take over. I've been absent from court for far too long, probably. But we don't exactly have allies there, Samuel. Sir Gawain sat as Leo's right-hand man. And I doubt, after current events, that he is going to want to rally his forces to our side. I'm sure that won't turn into a personal vendetta at all, but we need someone there. And what is the worst that happens? If she turns, we have her husband. We execute him and we have their heir, not... And she kind of looks pointedly at everyone in the room, probably except Faye, because I think she probably knows Faye knows this, but mostly the two generals. Not that I am suggesting or advocating that we start murdering children, because it's not that poor boy's fault that he was born into the Tyrell family. But if she doesn't play along, she's risking that. That's the end of their direct line.
Also, Highgarden does appear to be under the impression that you are somewhat pushed for money, so ransoming her back
Is gold
would
in the
explain
coffers.
it a little more. And also a well-funded army would probably stand you in good stead when you meet your new ruler.
So Aubrey just pipes up and says, "I'm sorry, my lady, but you are slightly mistaken. Yes, Lord Peter is here, as he speaks to Mara. But, if memory serves me right, Lady Tyrell had another son, most recently, perhaps a year old."
Going to do.
Then they have an heir.
They do, and by the time they bother to organize, you really think that when she goes back, they're just going to put her straight into control anyway. We don't need
Perhaps.
to have direct power over Highgarden right now. We just have to have the works for it. As Samuel said, this is a war on time. They are fighting over there about who gets to be in control. So let's throw somebody else into the mix, make that fighting go on for longer, and maybe, just maybe, she will be a pawn on our side of the battlefield, at least while we have her husband and her child, her firstborn and her eldest.
I believe that's the best course of action as well. I'm not disputing that.
By the time they figure it out, we can have an army on their gates. We all but set siege to Highgarden the last time we had a host there. And the impression that we got is that there was some panic about how long it would take them to get their forces to come and deal with us if we did decide to lay siege to them. And now we are slowly seeing their bannermen and their banner houses declare for us every day as the letters come in.
Also,
we just have to waste their time.
If I might illuminate those who don't know female behavior quite as well as others.
The men kind of stiffen up a little bit and are like...
Mara smiles. There's a little bit where she kind of looks Faye out of the corner of her eye and just enjoys the way she's making these men uncomfortable with that.
When Lady Casella spoke out, she was not trying to secure her lineage, as you have pointed out. Her lineage was safe. She spoke out and risked her own neck for her husband. She cares. At risk of her own life, she cares. In that, we have a strength.
So Aubrey gives Lord Caswell a bit of a look. So for kind of a...
Sam,
just keep it.
Samuel presses down and moves a little piece along the table, along the map, and says, right now is every day a time for decisive action, every single day. And we have many, many things to decide. I believe this course is wise. We could use the money until the coffers of Old Town are open to us. And if anything, it will at least slow down Highgarden so that we can turn our focus and the majority of our effort towards Summerhall. However, because the Tyrell family has endured much and will endure more before this ends, I do not believe that this is a matter going to the lady, convincing her of the import of siding with us and having Highgarden side with us. It's not a matter for me. I do not believe it's a matter for my wife. We have hurt her family. We are the sword, and she needs a friend to handle this matter.
So Aubrey cottons on and looks over at Lady Faye.
You're suggesting I convince her to turn against her husband's wishes?
I am. That is the best way to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. And my lady, that is what all of this has been for.
But as you said yourself, you won't need to. As Lady Mara pointed out, you put her back out there. They've got another month at least of debating among themselves as to whether a woman is fit to rule, which I know as well as anyone creates a great deal of meetings. So
He's on our side. If we can control Highgarden through her, it's even less potential bloodshed. It means that the forces making their way down past Highgarden don't have to worry about fighting a skirmish that they're not prepared for.
you held a sword to her husband's throat. She will never be friendly
No.
to what you wish, but you don't need her to be. You have her husband and her son. That's all she needs. She doesn't need to like you.
No, she does not. But I do need her armies not so close to Hornhill. If there comes a time where the Crown lands comes down, the Targaryens come south, I want the battle to be met not in the Reach, but to the north. I want to control the Reach by then to keep our villages and our homes safe. And to do that, we cannot have a snake hiding in the grass, waiting until we walk away to slither into our homes. Highgarden's armies must be ours.
Then what if we send another snake?
I'm listening.
If I convince the Lady Casella, whose friendship I have, I believe, earned these past few weeks, if you release her and I convince her that I have some way of maintaining communication privately between us so that I can advise her from within, we allow them a few small victories to build up trust. And then we lead them in the wrong direction.
You're suggesting that we make you the power behind Highgarden.
No. I'm suggesting that I pass on information that may be to your benefit rather than hers. And it won't be until it is too late that it will be realized.
That if we must lead them into a trap at a later time, we can.
Oh, it doesn't need to be a trap. It doesn't have to be all doom and gloom, Samuel. Just send them marching in the wrong direction. Always on killing. What is wrong with you?
Killing is what is on us now. It is coming. But
She's
I
right.
believe you are right.
It'd be like having a spy within Highgarden's walls, and we have a lack of those.
I think it might be important that she does not know that you are keeping our counsel and vice versa, so she can trust you.
Agreed. She knows that we have an old friendship, but perhaps my presence at these meetings should be a little more quiet.
Nods and sits back down, looking a little bit more relaxed, takes a drink from his glass of wine, and says, then that sounds like one matter is settled. There is one more, I believe, needs to be decided immediately. We are rallying our forces, many houses coming here to join us in our considerable army at Hornhill. But I am eager to march. I am eager to lead our forces down to Summerhall and strike before it's too late. I would hear everyone's counsel on this and how much of our forces we believe we should send or hold behind.
I'm gonna just finish the scene up there, so we can think about that. We can resolve that more as a house action. So I've got a few more things,
like
and
it.
it's time is against us, and I'm gonna try and fit stuff in. Faye, as you leave this council meeting, start to straighten up your clothing a little bit. You head out through the corridor, and you see the familiar face of Lucius, your I don't know. What's the phrase? Minstrel.
Friend. Musical
Cat's
friend.
paw. Musical friend.
Completely unsuspicious musician. Yeah, him.
Yeah. He greets you warmly and slips into your hand a small letter. And kind of looks into your eyes in a kind of this is to be looked at discreetly kind of way.
I'll take it and slip him a coin, quite generous coin, for his efforts, and make my way to my chambers as quickly as I can.
Sure, and you find them easily. In those... Oh, go on.
Sorry, as soon as I get there, I would slam the door behind me and just lean back against it. And unfold the note.
And you see a familiar scrawl on the letter. And you read this.
Faye, please forgive me leaving you. Though I trust that you know you will be safe, I feel that I would not. I could not put my trust in those that would kill their own guests. With you within and me without, perhaps we can make a real difference to this catastrophe. Use the person that gave you the message, and they will be able to return your reply to me. Should you need me to go somewhere and do something, let them know, and I will do what I can to oblige. For now, I go to where we first danced, to seek comfort in a dear friend. Please know I have not abandoned you. We will see each other again. I know this with all my heart and soul. Forever yours, Enzo.
She'll stare at it for a long time, reading it and rereading it. and look over at the pitcher of wine on the side. And she wants more than anything just to get roaring drunk right now and make everything go away.
Did you take that drawback?
Hmm?
Did you
No.
take that drawback? No, okay, cool.
No,
All right.
she just really,
Just checking.
really wants all this to stop right now. This has been a bad day. And she'll take the piece of paper and walk over to the fire, fold it up, reopen it, read it again. And at one point just sniffs the paper and then crumples it up and throws it in the fire. And then she sits down at her desk and starts to write. And she's in there for quite a while, I think, composing this in just the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And then she'll leave the chambers and go to find him again so she can get this message back straight away. But it'll be, again, tucked into a sleeve or something.
By that evening, the hall is lively with dance and food and drink, and there's several musicians now who seem to have flocked here to Horn Hill as if to try and kind of gather some inspiration about what's going on and be able to tell the story of what's going on for years to come. And so they're performing, tunes, they're performing, safe Blackfyre material for the crowd, really, really, really playing the crowd. So you find Lucius to the side of the minstrel's gallery, and you're able to take him to one side. And I will roll secretly for getting the message out properly to Enzo. However, I will give you this one thing. He says, "My lady, you entreated me into finding more information about your old knight, Sir Osmond."
Yes. Did you find him?
I have it on good report from some of the soldiers here in this very keep that Sir Osmond was murdered at the Tarly camp outside Fox Hollow during the tourney. I am sorry to bring you this news.
Murdered? Why?
I cannot speak to the soldiers' motives, but I believe the Tarleys found him spying on their camp. I'm afraid I cannot pinpoint who swung the sword, nor dealt the sentence. But he was killed, from all reports.
Thank you.
If there is anything else you would have of me before I leave.
Simply deliver this, and she'll pass the note, and it's kind of sandwiched in between a couple of coins. But he can see that she's trying desperately not to cry in the middle of this room.
He takes a deep bow and he says, "My lady," as a leaving thing, and he heads off immediately out of the hall.
I think she just sort of leaned back against the wall, just looking at everybody in this room. It's almost like she can't hear it properly anymore. I'm watching Lucius leave. It's like the only friend she's got here now is Sir Dennis. He's the only dependable thing. And I think she without even realizing it, her hand would go to his and grip it quite tightly before she realized what she was doing and take it off. And she's just looking around at this sea of faces and she can't trust any of them.
Miria. As you enter the small courtroom at the top of the tower of Ironwood Keep, you find men gathered all around a table, that little table that you've set up for like maps and documents. And Sir Harris is at the center of that crowd, and they are all gathered around looking at one particular document.
Okay. Miria walks in like she owns the place a little bit because she does. This is her fucking house. So I think there's like, you know, like an Aragon opening the doors in Two Towers. It's kind of like that sort of entrance as she walks in. And she sort of comes in. What are you looking at?
So Harris looks up at you with some excitement and he says, "My lady," and he like ushers people away, and you know, annoyed, they leave, they depart, they kind of break away from the table, and he stands over a letter that he is holding just the corner of on the table. Don, would you care to read out your letter? Have you got it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, I do. I have it in a Google Doc. Hold on. Here it is.
I do have it here too, if you need me to copy and paste it somewhere for you.
Oh, yeah, I've got it. So it's a long piece of parchment, inexpensive parchment. The ink that stains the page, also inexpensive. And this copy bears the official seals of House Tarly, which is the Red Hunter, and the seal of Lord Samuel Tarly, the Golden Bear. At the bottom, it's signed by many lords, all of the ones he has in his camp. And this is what it says. Good people of the Reach, under the weak and corrupt stewardship of Lord Tyrell, a rift has grown between our kingdom's great houses and small homes alike. That division is at an end now. The Reach is one proud kingdom. We all know that war has arrived once more in our foothills and upon our doorsteps. We may not save ourselves from the call of war, but brother will not fight brother in the days to come. Lord Tyrell and his family, Lord Highgarden and his family, or Hightower and his family, have been captured and are being held as wards until such time that war ends and peace resumes. The coffers of Old Town will remain under the stewardship of Lord Costain until such time that Lord Hightower may continue his duties. Lady Faye Rowan has voluntarily been taken hostage on the agreement that the inhabitants and armies of Golden Grove and her vassal houses will still stay safely within their walls. They will play no part in either side of the upcoming combat. Every other marching army, every knight, every general, and weapon of war in the Reach is to rally at Horn Hill. You will present yourself to the command of Lord Samuel Tarly, the acting Lord Paramount of the Reach. The Targaryens who rule in the Red Keep and poach on our lands have brought us nothing but the Iron Fist, illegal and immoral taxes, and cruelty. The Reach now only recognizes King Daemon Blackfyre, second of his name. Our host will win this war to end the mad reign of the Targaryens and return freedom and prosperity to the Reach. Small folk, demand your lords rally and make the right choice for the future of the Reach, your homes and your families. Lords and ladies, find the valor to stand with the Tarly host and King Daemon II to put an end to hundreds of years of tyranny. I, Lord Samuel Tarly, vow to be the shield and sword of the Reach, to care for its small folk and its land as much as I do its history and noble houses. I do not do this alone or without the sagest of counsel. By my side stand my wise and fierce wife, Lady Mara Tarly, and my heroic father, Lord Glendon Tarly. Stand now with the Reach. Together we will win this war. I swear it by the old gods and the new.
Miria is quiet for a moment as she is just letting all of this wash over her. So I see he's declared himself Lord Paramount of the Reach.
That's not quite how I read it. He's custodian of it for now.
Mm-hmm. You don't know Samuel Tarley?
I unfortunately don't.
So, with this news, what is the plan?
I think we should go through Fox Hollow to Hornhill as soon as we can. Let Sir Samuel know of what's going on, of our plans, in order to join things up. And let him know what his grace, Daemon II, what his plans are for the Reach as well. If he is aligned to those goals, if he is truly loyal to Daemon II, then he will relinquish control of the Reach to me. I do understand, however, that it would be very remiss of us to not expect Maekar to be gathering his forces and to be heading south. This rebellion has started in Dawn, and he holds the key. The rest of the Seven Kingdoms to get to Dawn. He will probably be doing his best to gather his forces and neighbouring allies. He will probably entreat with House Will as best he can in order to secure the Boneway, for the north at least. In truth, I don't know what we should do. But I know I want to find out what is happening in the Reach, in our home. In my birthright.
I think Miria looks at him at that point as he says, you know, our home, his birthright. And she understands, right? Like, she's just been through a whole fucking arc of this herself. How about we entreat our neighbors here? Let's see if we have any allies close by who could provide us assistance, provide us some backup should make our march south. I'm working on enlisting a new unit here. I have the resources able to do so to increase our strength at Ironwood. Once we have that secured, then I will gladly lead you through Fox Hollow.
And he smiles at that, and he shares a long look with Miria at that.
And I think at that point, Miria sort of like, because I assume Mesa Dorian's just one of those maces that just appears. He's like one of those old spooky fuckers that just is there,
Yeah.
like when you need him. And she asks him to prepare a couple of ravens. She wants to send out some messages.
Yep, absolutely. And yeah, we can certainly roll for that and do for that in a little bit of downtime as well. Mara, it's getting quite late into the night when you are walking the corridor, and a musician makes their way towards you and effectively stands in the way, stops you, bows very deeply, says, "My lady." He is an older gentleman, looks like a bit of a thespian, some slight grey receding hair, but wearing some kind of slightly tatty entertainer's kind of garb. Says, "My lady, would you be interested at all in any news from the Reach?"
News? What kind of news?
I believe this news is actually somewhat of a personal nature.
She takes a minute. She kind of like eyes him carefully. And she's kind, she's been at Highgarden and she's heard the rumors about mummers and singers. She's not completely blind to knowing that they often are in the pocket of somebody. And I think for a moment she kind of waves, because if she's by herself, if she's not with Samuel, she definitely has guards with her. She kind of waves them off to do that whole like take 3 steps back and find somewhere to stand kind of thing.
Yeah. And he kind of holds his hands out to show it, to say, look, I haven't got any blades on me. Look, I'm just a dude with a musician and a lute.
And she'll tell them it's fine. And I imagine that, she'll walk with him over to, I imagine that Hornhill's got those windows that overlook the outside that are like big archways. They're almost like indoor balconies.
Yeah,
he
nice.
Kind of walks along to there and looks out at the grounds of Hornhill as he stands beside her. And what will this news cost me?
Nothing, my lady. I see it as a service to His Grace Lord King Daemon.
Then please share the news.
The news from Old Oak, my lady, is that Lord John is dead. Now many men, particularly the mummers and the courtiers of the Reach, know what this means.
Are you sure? How?
A sickness, they say. A sickness of the spirit. And so the young oak turns to the old and becomes Lord Oakheart.
Has he arrived yet?
I do not know.
And Mara's trying to think now. I'm assuming that we haven't heard if House Oakheart has declared for Blackfyre.
You have not heard that news.
If he's paying attention, he notices that the hands that she's put on this kind of stone banister, like the knuckles are going white where she's pressing her fingers into it. She's trying really hard to like breathe slowly, but there is like a hidden panic that's bubbling.
I would like you to roll for me a will courage test. The difficulty is going to be 20.
My character sheet doesn't want to open properly. Roll 20. There you go. Sorry. Will courage. How many bonus dice do I have?
What, in chat? 3 bonus dice, 1 test die in the chat.
I'm going to use just 1 bonus dice on this.
1 bonus dice? Okay.
1 bonus dice.
Alright. Yeah, difficulty is 20, as he has been inciting you.
14.
Okay. You are going to take 1 point of stress. As this is like a -1 dice to some of your like social and status related tests for the meantime. Until at least maybe that feeling passes, or we can resolve the matter in some way. But yeah, you'll receive the news and receive some stress because of that news.
I think she's quiet for a minute as she looks out at Hornhill, and she's not really looking. She's just in her own head. Do you think, if the fair payment or at your choice, in the good service of the king, that you might inform me when he arrives at Old Oak? I'm sure there is much that you hear from the Reach.
Of course, my lady.
Thank you. And she immediately just wants to get away and back to her guards. And that makes her feel a bit better when she gets there. But I think the first thing she does is she goes looking for Samuel, and she will walk everywhere until she finds him. If anyone tries to talk to her on the way, she's like, doesn't even acknowledge them. They're not even there. She doesn't care who it is.
Where would she find you?
I think she would find Samwell in his father's chambers. Glendon's probably sleeping, covered under a lot of blankets, and there's fluids, water, and medicine set out, and he's on a chair. The hearth fire in the room is probably just embers, so it's pretty dark, just a little bit of glow, and he's sitting on a chair in the corner, just kind of staring at his father sleeping, probably a little into his drink at this point.
I imagine Mara dismisses her guards by the time she gets to the door, because she's here with Samwell now, so she doesn't really need them about unless she leaves this room by herself. And I imagine this part of the castle is quiet. There aren't guests here. This is almost become like a more private area. I imagine this is also the same area that their quarters are around here somewhere. And so she doesn't knock when she goes in. She just opens the door. And in this darkened room, all Samwell will see as she opens that door is like the fact that she is streaming in tears and shaking. And just like, as soon as she sees him, she just can't move. She's just standing there, frozen on the spot, like just manages to shut the door behind her and is physically like shaking.
It takes him a moment to notice, to stir. He's somewhere else. He does, and his eyes open up a little wider. He sets down his cup and stands up and goes over to embrace Mara. And he says, "What is it? What's wrong?"
And she's just staring past him into that fireplace.
Hey, look at me, Mara. Look at me. Whatever it is, it will be all right.
She can't even, she keeps trying to talk, and like every time she does, she just cries more until she finally like gets the words out. Lord John is dead.
He swallows that for a moment, continues to embrace her and says, I'm so sorry. Lord John was a tough man, but a good man.
Samwell, he's dead. And she's just looking at him like, you should know what I'm saying. Like, it's really obvious she's not upset that Lord John is dead. She's like, his sentence was 10 years or until his father's death.
He lets go of you and he takes a step back into the dark. And you can see he's not one to show fear. And maybe this is fear, maybe it's something else, but it looks like he's been stricken. He takes a step back and he says, "Oh, right. Of course. Is he back?"
I haven't heard. I have somebody who is listening out for when he arrives back at Old Oak. But they haven't declared for us yet. And even if they do, I can't have him anywhere near me. I can't have him here. I can't have him in our host.
Mara, we don't have to have him here, but we just have to make sure that I have to make sure that I speak to him so that he can understand everything that's happened, everything that's come to pass.
He's not going to understand anything.
He'll understand me, Mara.
I thought he'd understand me, that he didn't even trust his own wife to tell me what he was doing that day. You think he's going to trust you? After I had our marriage annulled and you married me, what do you think he's going to think? I haven't spoken to him since the day he left. I didn't even tell him that I'd lost our child. What do you think he's going to do when he comes out, when the Targaryens have let him out? He is going to be riding from King's Landing to Old Oak. Do you really think that they would put him back in a house, knowing that he would turn, because he would. I don't know if he ever spoke to you about Blackfyre, but he did to me, and I know that look in anyone's eyes. When he comes back here, he is not going to be an ally or a friend. Not to us. And not to
I
the
have
cause.
to try, Laura. I have to try.
He has already taken so many of the things that I love from me. I can't just let you go off on your own and talk to him.
Right. Yes. No, of course I have to remain with you and with the host. But
He did what he did to Oliver out of some misplaced sense of glory and jealousy and revenge because somebody told him no on a battlefield once. I was there. I saw it. I watched it. I begged the two of them not to have the argument that they were having. And days later, Oliver was dead, and he didn't tell me what he was doing. And it took him 3 days to tell me afterwards what he had done. I do not trust him. I trust him less than I trust Costain, and that is saying something.
very well. I won't go against your wishes here, Mara. We've already sent the letters. When he arrives to Old Oak, he will know where we stand, where you stand and I stand, and where the Reach stands. And if he chooses to fight with the Targaryens, then so be it. You do not need to fear him. He cannot come here. He cannot come to you. And
He's going to want to. I know. I already know that I'm going to have to see him. You think he's going to leave until he's said his piece? I don't know how he feels.
do you want to know?
Do you? I mean, he was my husband, but I don't know what he was to you. I know you cared about him. I never got the chance to ask him because he went and committed a murder before I could.
And Samuel walks back to his cup and drains it and sets it back down on the stand beside the chair. And sort of looks over his shoulder to you. And you can see, like, he looks a little smaller. His silhouette there in the dark, a little smaller. And he says, it doesn't matter. Any of those people, anything in the past, Faye, Alistair, none of it matters. We are right here, and we can only face what's ahead of us. We can't be afraid of him.
But I am. What he did cost me my family, my child. It cost me everything until you came along. And I don't trust him. Because if it were me, I'd want to take everything from me. Everything.
Turns back around, walks back over to you, offers you both of his hands.
And she takes them both, and she's gone from like upset shaking to angry shaking now.
I promised you to protect you, to be by your side. And I will. He won't get to you. He won't do anything to you. I won't let him.
When he comes here, I will not offer that man guest right. Not in these halls.
Very well. Not that guest right means much to people like Alistair,
No.
or you, or me.
But still, I won't keep up the pretense. And if he fights with us, send him as far away from wherever we are as we can.
I will. I do hope he joins us, though, because Mara, this is not a simple game we're playing. This is everything, and we need everything to go right.
He gets his audience. That's what he's owed. And then he can leave. And if he joins us, then all the better. We have his armies and she thinks something and then doesn't say it. Just kind of bites her lip like she's holding something back.
He moves his gaze away from yours and says, I think tonight I'm going to enjoy a drop of my father's milk of the poppy. I need to calm myself for tomorrow.
I think she just kind of nods, and he'd probably get the sense that she doesn't want to be apart from him right now. She is very definitely afraid. And the anger is covering up the fear, but that's where it's all coming from. Just, I don't want to be by myself tonight.
Of course. Let's go to bed.
And she doesn't stop shaking until she's asleep. She is afraid.
And Sam will steal just a drop of his father's milk of the poppy, because he's not shaking outright, but inside he is. He would offer a drop to Mara as well.
Oh, well, she'd take it in a heartbeat.
So high on poppy, they go to bed, and his heart doesn't stop beating loudly until finally he's asleep.
All Mara can think about as she's laying there trying to fall asleep and letting like the milk of the poppy do what it does is how much she does not want to see his face ever again. But she can kind of picture it. She doesn't really have a choice. And she can only think about what she held back from saying, which was that at least if he does join their side, maybe he doesn't make it out of the war. And maybe that would be better. And she almost feels guilty for thinking it because it's the first time she's ever truly, genuinely felt like she wanted him dead.
Sam will also thinks about Alistair. His eyes closed as he's falling asleep, his face in the dark. Part of him very much wants to see Alistair again.
That is where we will wrap up tonight's episode. Oh, how the dominoes fall of the of the NPC love triangles coming to roost. Oh, it was so juicy. That was so juicy. All right, we got to shoot pretty soon. Let's go around and just decompress and check in with everybody and see how everybody's doing. Susie, you had a little bit of a break there. Watching that scene, getting angry with me and Millie.
Fucking. I'll save it for after the fire, but
Yeah.
I feel like my face reflected my emotions in that moment when you're getting all in high and mighty about fucking guest right, breaker of it twice, by the way, just in case you forgot. I actually feel like Maria got off pretty lightly that episode, which is not usually something I can say for any episode I've ever appeared in this show. Yeah. Who knows? I'm just like expecting though to, set up my little plans and be like, all right, let's go, Harris. We're going on a vacation to the scumbags. And then Makeout's just gonna go poof, and just trash my house. And then I'll have to go and trash Makeout and then trash his house.
As a player, you get to make that choice. Defend Ironwood or head to Hornhill.
I don't want
I don't want to. I told you. You got to make some decisions this season. You all got to make some decisions this season.
Yeah. So in my downtime, I'm going to be writing some letters. Do you know what? She's going to send one to Ellery because she still doesn't know he's dead.
Cool.
It's going to be horrible.
Cool.
This is nice. And yeah, build up my little unit of troops, which I can do with my resources, and then think about what I'm going to prioritize: the boy I want to smooch, or the house that I just fought and killed a lot of people for. Who knows?
The joys of rulership. Right. What are you up to? Quick, plugs.
My stream Friday tomorrow, 2 p.m. Probably shooting zombies with the usual squad of miscreants and ne'er-do-wells. And then I'll be back as per usual on Monday. I believe, is it next Wednesday, Sam? That we're back with
the spies.
Spoos?
Yeah, I think so.
So next Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern, yet again, for Return of Hexcrawl, where Athrena and the gang are back. We leveled up. I multi-classed. Cool. So we're gonna go on the offensive this season. We're not gonna be on the back foot. We'll be in the attacking force. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah, that's me.
You ain't got the whole world against you. It will be fine.
What's new?
All right. And Millie.
Oh, that was eventful.
It was a little bit.
That was a little bit eventful.
Those heartstrings just.
Yeah, I actually felt more of that at that first scene than I was expecting to, for sure.
Yeah.
Was not expecting to get dragged into the politics before any kind of agreement had been made, so that was really interesting. Definitely wasn't expecting them to agree that readily. That was awesome. So now we just have to have a little discussion about what it's going to cost you.
Just a little chat. Just a
small one. Because my house being safe and my vassal house is being safe, like, I'm what bought you that. So if you want some other shit on top, show me the money you don't got anymore because you fucked your bank's wife.
Oh my gosh. Beautifully put. Where can we find you? What are you doing?
You can, most of the time you can find me over on Twitter. Mondays, I've just started a new sci-fi campaign over on The Wandering Inn, and it's so much fun. If you like Firefly, Cowboy Bebop, that kind of feel to it. It's very roleplay heavy. And I'm playing a slightly strange botanist called Nomi. So you can head over there Monday at 7 for the next installment and see what happens after we have dinner and if I can make a plant grow in deep space.
Good luck.
Thanks. I'm going to need it. We've literally got a ceiling light and some pots right now. And I had to explain to our slightly simple captain that isn't enough. And that's why our tangerine's dying.
Oh no. Poor tangerine.
Yeah, sometimes.
V.
Hi, this is juicy. This is everything
Very
I've been
juicy.
wanting since the end of season 2.
Mm-hmm.
I have spent every season since Alistair got locked up being like, when is he coming back though? When is he coming back to ruin my fucking life? And I have so many feelings about this. Whether or not he is gonna side with us, Like that whole prologue thing, like makes me think that he some time in the black cells might have affected the old cognitive function there.
I did my research. Solitary confinement is a hell of a thing, and it's absolutely disgusting.
It's slightly worrying that he's still thinking about Mara, just from my standpoint, because I'm like,
Worrying?
He hates her, right? He has to hate her. Does he hate her?
Does he
Oh
though?
God, no. I'm looking forward to when he shows up, because I 100% want Mara to be there when he rocks up at Hornhill, because like I've pictured that moment in my mind since the end of season 2. So
If they don't meet in this season, we've done something wrong. But I don't know when it might be. Like, you guys are going to march off all the Wisware and wherever.
I think it's going to depend on when Alistair actually gets back to Old Oak, because if they're still at Hornhill, they're not actually that far from each other. It's not that long of a ride, I don't think, between the two. So Hornhill would be the place that she'd want to. He has to come to her. Like she's not going anywhere to him. Fuck that.
Yeah, absolutely.
She has opinions. But I am really excited about him showing back up on the scene, and definitely not thinking about maybe just murdering him.
Do it. Try it.
Legitimately,
let's go.
though, this is the first time Mara's been like, I actually maybe do want him dead. Maybe I do want him dead. Oh, shit. But I'm excited. We're going to war so far there have been no terrible consequences.
You have done a very good job of paralyzing half of the Reach and turning the rest of them, so
I'm gonna put that down
all
to
right.
Don's dice rolling in roll 20.
Yeah, you've got a breath. You can take a breath, and then it's all going to be a little roller coaster from here.
Yeah.
But where are you? What are you doing? What are you up to? Where can we find you?
I haven't been streaming recently because I've had stuff going on, but streams should be back to normal from next week. So you can catch me on Monday for the finale of Cursed Captains of Cthulhu.
Yes.
Where I'm definitely not going to drive them all mad with an Avatar of Cthulhu. Maybe. Who knows? And then Wednesdays, I might be streaming something, but definitely stuff on Fridays. I don't know yet. Otherwise, hire me to work on your TTRPG projects.
Do it. Do it.
That's it. It's me.
And Dawn, the master of all of our destinies. At the moment.
Pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a great time. I loved all the scenes. I loved getting to see some of the fallout from everything that happened at Ironwood at the end of last season and everything that happened at Hornhill, and how that kind of shapes what's going to happen moving forward. I love this kind of approach we're taking where, we have these intensive role play scenes and intrigue scenes, and then we're going to kind of find time on the side to handle kind of the crunch of like, where do the armies go and how does all that play out?
Yeah.
Because I do I enjoy the not knowing. You can make all the plans you want, but until you roll the dice, you don't know how anything's going to go. And like one little thing going terribly or going really well can kind of shift the board for everybody. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this season plays out. I really enjoyed the War Council scene with Faye and Mara.
Yeah.
I think that was fun. I think that's I'm really interested in that dynamic between the three of them, at least, for a while we're together this season. And I thought this was my favorite prologue. I've loved all the prologues. I think this is my favorite prologue of all of the ones you've done at the beginning of the season. So it was really, really good.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, I loved it. So yeah, I'm pumped. I'm pumped for what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's all going to go great.
Nice. Where can we find you? What are you up to?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter if you want at Donathan Fry. I'm full-time running games, writing campaigns for groups of people. I have a ton of them going on right now. It's a lot of fun. And then kind of on the side, I'm working on more dark matter books for Mage Hand Press and a few other projects I can't really talk about right now, but a little bit of writing, mostly running games. And you can follow me there if you're interested in hearing about any of that.
And Don has an amazing Patreon. if you fancy. I'm sure the links are in your bio and all sorts of
Yeah,
stuff.
it's in my bio and Twitter. You can see the link to my Patreon. That's where you can get like heads up if you're interested in hopping in a game. You can join, and my patrons get like first glance. And I write and design game stuff and share it there for people too. Little tool sets and things they can use in different games as well.
Yeah, I'm in one of your D&D games, and it's definitely like a level up from just playing 5e. Like, there's so many more little subsystems that you've made and stuff like that that really enhances what we do. Like, we're playing Dark Sun, so obviously it's all geared towards that and survival and stuff like that. But I'm sure all of your other games have like really cool kind of, different variant rules and kind of things that you're doing.
Yeah. I love designing campaigns from scratch that are very specific to the needs of the story that like that group wants to tell. It's one of my favorite parts is designing all those mechanics. So
cool.
I always do a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, sweet. It definitely shows. So yeah, check Don out if you can. As for us, people have mentioned that we are going to be streaming again fairly regularly. So on Monday, V is going to take us through the finale of our Cursed Captains of Cthulhu game. Cursed Captains, if you're not aware, was our latest Kickstarter campaign where I believe that so late pledges are coming up. We're making them at the moment, but there is a little sign up that I think we've changed our command for, right, Susie? I think it's
So?
maybe. So let's try it. Fuck it. So yes, you can sign up to the to receive a little poke whenever we are going to go live with the late pledges. So check out the campaign. You can check out Cursed Captains of Cthulhu on Kickstarter too. You can see how the campaign did and kind of what the game is about. It's very pirates, golden age of piracy versus the evil machinations of the mythos and the kind of European forces that use them. And then on Wednesday, we're back with our spy game campaign, Hexcrawl, for a second season. I am really looking forward to that. We've gone from kind of Bourne Identity kind of style play from the last season to like, the Bourne Supremacy, where he starts trying to fight back. And so it's all about kind of surveillance capitalism and kind of fighting that oppressive kind of, way of capitalism. And then we're back every single Thursday from now until we figure this out. We're playing After the Fire. All of those games, 7 p.m. UK, 2 p.m. Eastern, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Whew, that's a bit of a packed schedule. Whew. And then you'll probably catch me on Susie's channel tomorrow when we're going to play Back for Blood. It's going to be so good. It's such a fun game. A whole bunch of us from this fam to do with Black Cats Gaming will be there. And you can follow me around the internet if you want at RPG Webby, pretty much anywhere. Other than that, that's about us. This is usually a point where I go, shit, I haven't got a raid, but Don has to leave, so we're going to go. I'm just gonna cut us off because that's what I'm like. So join us again next week or sooner if you fancy some of those other games. Thank you very much, friends, for playing with me. It is an absolute pleasure. I think we are going to have an incredible time. So we'll see you all next week. Farewell, everyone. Bye.